So, I'm just gonna title this video, When a Toxic Relative Dies. Now, I've been kind of fortunate where I haven't had enough family to see them die or know that they've died or whatever, like most people. Most people seem to have all sorts of relatives that have died, and I've never had that. The only person that's died in my family that I've been aware of is my great grandmother. She apparently was a toxic bitch for most of her life and abused my grandmother. And then when I came along, she was already dying of colon cancer, and I was 3 years old. And I remember my mom and grandma letting me visit her, and she was lying on this like sitting bed. It was one of those like mermaid looking ones, and like a chaise lounge chair or whatever. She was lying all like cat and like elegantly with her feet tucked in, and she had this Rapunzel hair. It was like out of Sleeping Beauty, where it just cascaded in golden rivers all the way down to the floor, like past her feet. It was, and maybe that didn't actually exist, but that's what I remember as a 3-year-old. Her hair may not have been that long, but to me it was that long. And because you know what the memory does, and I remember her Shih Tzu dog, and I remember the cottage out in rural Oregon. And I remember getting lost because it was acres and acres. It was probably 100 acres. It was huge. And it just went out for miles. And I got lost. I was a little kid in overalls, and I was really tiny as a kid. And I remember this dog, I got lost. I couldn't see the cottage. I didn't know where I was. And it was late into the evening, and this German Shepherd came running towards me and then picked me up by my overall straps and carried me, not fully carried me, but tugged me as I was walking back to great grandma's cottage. I remember that very clearly, and I remember that was also when my grandma let me watch The Wizard of Oz for the first time. And there's a lot of energy going on, a lot of stuff happening that I didn't quite understand. And I remember the night my great grandma died, all of a sudden a huge thunderstorm hit, and the hail came down, and it just felt like something serious happened. And my mom and grandma carried me out of the cottage for the last time, and I was crying, and I didn't even know why. I just knew something bad happened. And it wasn't until years later that I learned that that house was actually my house, that my great grandma was a very toxic woman. And apparently when she saw me, something in her clicked. I think the fact that she was dying, something in her mind made her wake up, and she decided to put the house in my name. And my grandma was so fucking traumatized that she burned the house down. Not only that house, but when she sold the land that was in my name, they went and bought a motorhome and a van. I think it was a van or a Jeep. And then later on, a Ford Bronco, brand new. So that was my inheritance. And yeah, so they stole my inheritance, and my grandma, she mentioned this love of her life that she had growing up, this Navy man that looked like Jimmy Stewart. He was tall and elegant, and blue-eyed and blonde-haired and sexy as hell, you know, and but their parents split them up, and they caught them in a romantic situation. I'm not going to specify, and split them up. And so my grandma, as long as I knew her growing up, she was alone, you know. And she always was very masculine. She always wore sweatpants suits, which is, I'm kind of hearkening back to her. And I got this tattoo for my grandma because we used to go on long walks where with this dog, and we would look at the Big Dipper in Alaska. When my mom moved me up to Alaska, I hated living up there. It was very lonely and isolating when you're poor. You don't have all the fun toys that everybody else has. What I mean by toys is like snowmobiles and trucks and shit. We had a Ford Bronco from my inheritance. That was it. And my grandma burnt down the motorhome to try to get money out of it, which was really weird. I'm like, okay, you burnt down the cottage to buy the motorhome, and now you burnt down the motorhome with all of my toys inside. Weird. Trauma does weird shit. And that's what I remember from that. And then, but anyway, my grandma was pretty much mine. She was the closest to me. We have the same blood type. My mom and I don't, but she and I do. We're so much alike, though she's a bit out there. But then again, I'm kind of out there. And she has a lot of the same disabilities that I do that are undiagnosed. A lot of the autoimmune stuff, a lot of the musculoskeletal stuff, the fibromyalgia, she has all of that. But she self-medicates to handle the pain because she doesn't like doctors any more than I do. Well, jumping forward in time, my mom gets more and more messed up, and I was a freshman in high school, and my grandma decides to work at a school, indigenous school in Sitka, Mount Edgecombe, which is for Alaska Native kids coming from different areas all over Alaska to go to school. And we worked there, and she had a dorm room there for a while, which was really nice. And my grandma was always a teacher. Taught me cursive, taught me calligraphy, taught me origami, taught me all sorts of stuff. And grandma's still alive. She's not dead. It's just she's a long ways away. Well, anyway, she became homeless. My mom is a fucking psychopath and kicked her out. And she had to live in a tent outside. Kind of shitty, and I didn't like that, and I missed her, but she was feeling desperate, and out of nowhere, the love of her life, Bill Schubert, the Navy guy, found her, hired a private investigator to find her. I guess his first wife died, or not died, but left, or they divorced or whatever, and so he went to find her, and he, gave her a plane ticket and sent her down to Georgia where they got married. And keep in mind, they hadn't seen each other in 45 years. He's a totally different person now. But in her mind, he was the same old person and blah, blah, blah. I knew better, but what am I going to say about that? That's my grandma. She's a grown woman. And I was glad that she wasn't homeless. There's not a whole lot of help for people that didn't make enough work credits for Social Security and are rather independent and disabled. So I get it. But I also was very angry because I wanted to go with her. I was tired of my mother. I felt abandoned when my grandma just said, "Hey, sorry, I'm leaving." And she had always been with me my whole life. She was always someone that protected me from my mother. When my mother would go crazy, I mean, severe, crazy, multiple personality, borderline, crazy. And she kept inviting her boyfriends over and they would touch me. My grandma was always there. She would be like, hey, Crystal, let's go for a walk. Let's get out of here. Let's go into the nature. Let's talk to the nature spirits. Let's get out of here. It was awesome. And that no longer was a part of my life. And it was really, really hard. My junior and senior year was very, very lonely for me. And it remained lonely until her and her husband, Grandpa Bill, started talking to me and came out and visited me when I had left college. But keep in mind, I was still very traumatized. I had not come out yet. I still looked feminine. I still acted feminine. I didn't have piercings. I was still religious. I was still Pentecostal. So I blended right in, right? And he was sweet to me for a little while. But of course, the vacation ended and I had to get back to work, and I didn't see him again because he went back to Georgia. I was in Oklahoma at that time. I left Alaska finally, and I'm never going back there again. But yeah, anyway, when I moved here to Washington, suddenly he really changed because I started to act out. I started to state my truth. I started to say, hey, I'm actually not that anymore. I'm actually this. I am non-binary. I'm pansexual. I am a non-binary alien. I have piercings now. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person. And he just railed into me on the phone. He started to get really antagonistic, started calling me names on my Facebook page. He would post these pictures of cows with the rings in their nose and be like, this is what you look like. And no one defended me. No one said shit. And I'm like, okay, I guess this guy can do no wrong. And I kept trying to connect with him, like, hi, Grandpa, I love you. And he would be like, here, and just hand the phone to Grandma, which is fine. I wanted to talk to Grandma anyway, but you're my grandpa. You're the love of her life. Shouldn't I be family? Shouldn't I be talking to you? No, I'm a Democrat, emphasis on the rat. I'm an ignorant millennial. I'm stupid for voting Democrat. I'm ignorant. I'm stupid. Only stupid Democrats are like you. And just, God, it just never ended. And I'm like, dude, I'm an adult and you're an adult. It's okay to have different opinions. But no, that wasn't okay with him. And my grandma would sneak away and talk to me. I kept noticing she would be like, hey, Crystal, my grandpa's your grandpa's upstairs, and he doesn't really want me talking to you, so I gotta be really quiet, And it just started to freak me out. I'm like, Grandma, are you okay? Is he abusing you? Is there something you want to tell me? But I don't think she could have said anything. I don't think she could have said anything if she wanted to, because she has nowhere to go. Just like me, she has nowhere to go if her man decides to leave her. And the reason why I'm so terrified right now is he just died. And I don't know where my grandma's going to go. I don't know if he put anything aside for her. I don't know if she has her own income. I don't know if his family's going to help her. She's his widow now. What's going to happen to her? I have reached out to his family saying, hey, I'm the weirdo. I am Glenna's grandkid. You gonna tell me what happened? Are you gonna let me know what's gonna happen to my grandmother? So that's where I am right now. And I'm angry that I couldn't have broken the door down myself and got her the fuck out of there. But I'm disabled too, and I don't really think my grandma would like to live here. I really don't. I think it'd be too democratic for her. But she used to be a pot smoking hippie, so I'm not sure how much of that is just programming from him and what is the real her anymore. Because she's kind of. It's been hard to tell who the real grandma is in the midst of all this, but deep down, I think that she loves me dearly. I think that she kind of gave him the middle finger, and I hope she's okay. So that's where I'm at. I'm not sad that he's dead. I'm happy he's dead, but I'm worried for her. And I'm worried about how this is going to affect her and how this is going to affect me, honestly, because I love my grandma more than anything, more than my own mother. So that's how I'm doing right now.